Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. What is a life well lived? I often ask myself this question, and I wonder what my grandparents and other ancestors would think of the life that I have lived so far. I wish I could ask them. As the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, I have always realized my unbelievable luck and privilege, which they didn't have, the chance to find my own way along a challenging, exciting, winding, energetic path that is overflowing with learning and teaching. I wish I could tell them. I felt this wish with an extra poignancy while watching the new season of the Israeli television show Shtisel. I promise no spoilers. There is a scene which I cannot get out of my head, which haunts me the way that great art haunts you. The characters are speaking Yiddish, and one brings a teaching from the great Yiddish writer, Isaac Bashevis Singer. De Mesim Genish Zuchem Shum Platz. The dead, they don't go anywhere. Alle seinen du, they are all here. Jeder Mensch is a Beis HaKvuros. Every person is a cemetery within themselves. And all of our grandfathers and grandmothers, fathers and mothers lie within us. Alle seinen du, de ganze Zeit. All of them are here, all the time. And so in this moment, listening to these words of Isaac Bashevis Singer from the mouth of Shulam Shtisel, the patriarch of the family drama, I realized that maybe I can ask my grandparents and other ancestors. Maybe I am always asking them, how am I doing? Am I living my life as meaningfully as I can? I have always felt a strong calling to use the blessings which I have been given to engage in the work of ensuring the survival and the thriving of the Jewish people, and to engage in the work of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, in both a particular and a broad way. And as a community, this week of Yom HaShoah, this week of Holocaust Remembrance Day, I call on all of us to find the presence of those lost within ourselves. We are each a cemetery for them in the most beautiful way. This week, when we pledge to remember and honor a loss so great that it's unimaginable, and this week, as we count our dead in numbers so high, they are uncountable. For me, millions of people is a magnitude more than I can really know. We are all carrying within ourselves much larger cemeteries than any people should have to carry. With this comes loss and mourning, the kind that continues on and on. In not the same, but in a related way to how we remember close personal losses each year by remembering their yahrzeits, the anniversaries of their death. Each year on Yom HaShoah, we mark this great loss to the Jewish people. And I wonder, without the ability to know all of the millions, who are the ones we always carry with us? Who are the ones who call to us from the inside when we move along our path in life? We recently began reading the third book of the Torah, the book of Leviticus. The first word and the Hebrew name of the book of Leviticus is Vayikra. The verb root kara, kuf resh aleph, means call out or to summon. And a calling out is more than a simple command or request. A calling is a summons to a mission that is greater than oneself. In the Talmud, we have a story that teaches that our calling can be connected to the calling of our ancestors. In an ancient story that foreshadows even the Shtisel dialogue, Rabbi Yochanan asserts, our ancestor Jacob is not dead. Rabbi Nachman counters, but didn't we mourn him and prepare him for his eternal rest and bury him? Rabbi Yochanan replies, Jacob's children are alive. So too is Jacob alive. Just as I am alive, so too is my grandfather Meyer and his sister Pearl and his parents, Brucha and Bear. My grandfather from the small town of Hrubieszew in eastern Poland survived after his parents and sister were murdered by the Nazis. It didn't start with genocide. A long-standing anti-Semitism in Poland led to increased anti-Jewish activities by everyday people, like university students blocking the entrances to Jewish-owned businesses and telling Poles not to enter, not to purchase anything from them, and bystanders who did not rise up to stop the ever-menacing actions. The Germans invaded Poland and arrived in Hrubieszew in September of 1939. They began looting businesses. They confiscated my family's wine and liquor store. They considered leaving, but heard of the deplorable conditions of the nearby Russian border towns for those seeking refuge, and they heard that the Russian guards would often turn back those who were trying to cross. And they naively hoped that a German civilian administration would restore and maintain law and order. And so they stayed. In one of the earliest murderous actions by the Nazis against Jews in Poland, all men aged 16 through 60 in Hrubieszew were rounded up and ordered to gather for a so-called resettlement in a nearby town. It was on this death march that Bear, my great-grandfather, was murdered in December of 1939. After hearing the news, Brucha, my great-grandmother, suffered a nervous breakdown and had to be hospitalized. The patients in the hospital were murdered a week later, leaving him as a 13-year-old orphan with a 10-year-old younger sister. My grandfather protected his sister for as long as he could, but she eventually ended up in Auschwitz. She was then sent to the women's concentration camp, Stutthof, where she was murdered only a few days before the end of the war. For a time, my grandfather was kept in a labor camp in his hometown as one of the last 100 Jews. Their job was to clean out the houses of the thousands of Jews of Rubieshev who had been sent to the gas chambers at Sobibor. He then survived a series of concentration camps, finally ending up in Dachau, where he was liberated at the end of the war. My grandfather made it to the United States, taught himself English, and finished high school and college with the help of his adoptive family, and especially his Aunt Frances, after whom I am named. My middle name in English and my Hebrew name, Tzipora, are after her and in her honor. He built a Jewish family and lived 2 weeks past his 92nd birthday. I'll share a few lines from the preface to his testimony, which he wrote in 1994. As a Holocaust survivor, I firmly believe I have a moral obligation to the 6 million that perished to recount my own experiences during that dark period of history. We must ensure that the truth be known and remembered, so that present and future generations prevent anything similar from happening again to any group of people. Now, almost half a century later, we are faced with the reality that we are aging and our numbers diminishing. We must therefore live up to our responsibility and challenge anyone who tries to deny or distort the historical truth of that period's events. My grandfather's full testimony is published online, and you can read it if you'd like. It's at megdal.com, and you'll find it. I know that if I could ask my ancestors, which Stiesel and Isaac Bashevis Singer remind me I always can. If I could ask my grandfather about the life that I have lived so far, I know that he would say to me, Yasher Koach, may your strength continue along the path of your calling. And so my blessing for all of us is to hold within ourselves those we lost, and Yishar Kochenu, that our strength should continue along the path of our calling, and that each of our separate paths strengthen our work together as a community and as a people in memory of all we've lost. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.